I've recently started taking an estrogen patch. Hats off to you. Thank you so much for the recommendation. It's been
You're
life-changing, and I'm sleeping through the night. Like, I mean, I'm like a college freshman after the Friday night party in my bed. Like, what time is it? My hair is across my eye. I got like the lashes somehow on my forehead. I got a contact lens in. The other one went someplace else. I mean, I'm in that good sleep now.
Yeah.
In pajamas. Ding, 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 with no fans on. I mean, this is a monumental occasion.
This episode was brought to you by Alloy Health and Rivian. Today's guest is someone you may know from your TV screens every night. Laura Coates is an attorney, an author, and chief legal analyst at CNN. She has served as a federal prosecutor in the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, worked in private practice, and now leads national conversations as a journalist and host of Laura Coates Live. But today, she's here with us not for the brilliant legal mind that she is, but as a woman sharing her deeply personal journey from complications during childbirth to early menopause. Laura, welcome to The Second Opinion.
Thank you so much, Dr. Malone. I'm so excited to be here. I love your work. I love your book. I love this podcast. I'm honored to have a chance to join you today. So thank you.
Laura, you and I did a fireside chat this summer in Martha's Vineyard. And you know what was really surprising for me?
What?
How funny you are. You know, I'm used to seeing you, being that very serious person asking probing questions on TV every night. And you were actually very funny. And it was one of the most fun conversations I've had this year. So thank you for that.
I love that because it really was a fireside chat next to my hot flash. That may have actually been the heat coming off of my body because you were helping me to navigate yet another hot flash. So thank you.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to talk about today because we're here to talk about a couple of things. And, in doing a little bit of research, I was looking at a clip of you, and I don't know, I can't exactly remember what the topic was, but you shared your story that you said you almost died in childbirth due to hemorrhaging. Now, we're going to talk about what we're here for today, which is sort of perimenopause and menopause. But can you take a moment and just sort of share a little bit of that story? Because you mentioned it in passing. So what happened?
It was after I had my first child. So I have a boy who's now 12 and a daughter who's now 11. But after I had my first child, I had a C-section. But before that, we were trying to induce labor and possibly be able to do it the quote unquote natural way. I don't mean no drugs. I mean without having a C-section. And so we had the Pitocin and we had the different things that were used to try to accelerate that process to no avail. But I remember this one particular nurse woke me up and she said, wake up. Do you like Matt Lauer? And I remember thinking to myself, this is a long time ago, by the way, but I'm thinking, what? And of course, I'm in my mind going, why on earth am I being woken up for this? But she was so nice and she was so warm. She begins to explain in a very calming voice while we're watching this, I think in a way to sort of distract me. And she said, well, I've been changing your sheets and changing the padding. And you are bleeding quite a bit. But there's something that might happen, but only you'll be able to tell in the moment. And so I want you to take in your hand your little monitor button that alerts the nursing station out in the hall. And she was so kind. And my husband was sleeping in one of those tiny sofa beds that they put into a hospital room to, I think, really haze any new parent. And so I held on to it with all my might, thinking, okay, I don't know what she's talking about, but all right. And I remember my mother walking in and she had a coffee and this will always stick with me. And she's sitting across from me and she says, oh, good morning. How are you doing today? I said, oh, hi, Mom. And then I felt like an elephant sat on my head all of a sudden. And it was such a clear feeling. And I knew she had said, if something happens, just push the button. I remember pushing the button before coming to much later. And there was all of this chaos around, a quiet chaos and calm that I to this day remember how trained the staff must have been to be able to have the wherewithal to move quickly, but also to not, arouse my anxiety and fear as a new mom. But the amount of blood that was coming, the doctor came in and there was no time to even, I remember, give her gloves. And she had to literally, and this is very graphic, I'm sure we're in the right company to talk about this, but she had to literally reach within and she was pulling out clots after clots after clots after clots. And I remember thinking, well, I can't be dying because my mom's, she's sipping coffee. I must be fine right now because it's Weber. And, they're able to arrest whatever the bleeding was happening in the moment and to clear what was happening. The pain of somebody, inserting themselves into your body in that way, it felt like almost up to the forearm in my mind.
You are. At that point, you're elbow deep.
Yeah. And I remember seeing the blood on the sides of her scrubs. And I remember thinking for the first time in my life that I wasn't afraid and fearful of dying because I would die. I was afraid because what that loss might mean to something. And I have a loving family and I feel a great part of it. But it made me realize in that moment, like I was a mom, I was a mother, and I was concerned for my baby and what would happen there. And I never forgot it. So when we had the baby, my second child, I almost didn't have another child because I was so afraid of what might happen again. But I did, and thank God I did because I'm blessed with two.
Well, this is a story that you don't hear often, because we hear the tragedies of what happens after someone has been in this sort of very emergent situation and then you pass away.
Yeah.
But what we're going to really talk about today, Laura, is, menopause and really early and premature menopause, because I think that's something that people don't really realize happens. So I want to talk to you about your menopause. And you mentioned you were having a little hot flash in our conversation, but I want to know, because you're 45. So clearly you're in, at the very least, the early menopause phase. But what age were you when you had your last period?
Before 40.
Before 40.
Before 40. And, I wonder about the dates because, of course, I still take birth control, have an IUD. And so that can impact, obviously, when I would actually know and have one. But it was certainly before COVID. It was, after my second child, and it was a couple of years after that I decided to do the IUD. And so it's been since before 40 that I've had my last period and also the symptoms associated with that.
And what are your symptoms? Or what were your symptoms then? Let's just say at the very beginning.
Oh my God. I was so hot. And I don't mean like sexy. I mean, I was hot.
You're that too.
Thank you. Look who's telling me. I mean, I was hot. That's like, I was fire, right? No, I was so hot. Like it would come like my back of my torso all of a sudden and my spine would just be sweating in an instant as if I had like walked through a steam bath all of a sudden. My hair is natural. So all of a sudden I'd go from having this beautiful blowout to like, wait a second, did I not just do my hair? I would have sweating down my brow. I would be sleepless because I kept waking up and throwing off covers and blaming my husband, who I was like, are you a furnace? Like, do you need to get some ice water? Why are you this hot all the time? And he's like, I think I'm a normal temperature. I'm like, well, you're not. And then I'd have to have a fan next to me and a fan above me. And I thought, am I not drinking enough water? And it was just a constant state of, I'd be fine for a second, maybe fine for a couple hours. And then it would come out of nowhere and it would last. And I would just feel like a total mess. And then moody because I wasn't sleeping the way that I had been accustomed to sleeping. It was awful.
And did you make any connection between what you were feeling at that time and anything to do with menopause or perimenopause?
I knew my mom had menopause early, and I had a sister who also was describing something similar. But I thought, there's no way. I'm in my mind, I'm much younger than they were at that age. Even though, really, I think looking back, it must have been the same time. So I thought, okay, well, these are the hot flashes of maybe it's nerves, maybe I'm anxious, maybe I'm under the hot lights at work, maybe it's COVID, and I'm just nervous all the time and trying to figure out and about keeping my family and myself alive. So I thought it was like a psychological, psychosymptomatic in a way that I was causing it.
Did you mention this to anyone? Did you talk to your doctor about it or anything about the symptoms you were having at that time?
I remember talking to my mom and older relatives, and they all had the same sort of, oh, yep, it's probably starting. But you know what? Hormone therapy makes you crazy, as they kept saying. It makes you crazy. So, just you might have to dress less wool clothing or cotton. And my mom would make jokes about, now you girls know why I hated when you would buy me a sweater for Christmas. And I'm like, who's wearing this sweater? Who's wearing this coat, girls? I talked to a doctor and she said, it seems a little early, but it could be. Let's maybe think about hormone replacement therapy. And I got to tell you, I consider myself to be an educated woman, but the phrase hormone replacement therapy, I had dialysis in my mind. Isn't that crazy? That's why I was thinking, like, I got to sit someplace and have like a machine hooked up. And they're going to replace somehow hormones. Good thing I went to law school, not medical school.
But Laura, that is not, one of the other signs of sort of perimenopause and menopause is brain fog. So you may have heard one thing and then you put it someplace else. It's like, no, we're not replacing, we're not doing that. I take it when you had this conversation, or so you've been discouraged by your mom and others and then you're thinking, I've got to go hook up and get dialysis. So the answer to hormone therapy at that point would be a hard no, correct?
It's like, no, I'm good. I figured, you know what? Maybe it'll be good for my pores to constantly sweat. Like maybe it'll be a good thing. I was thinking, well, maybe I'm just not in shape. And I will tell you, that's the part too that made me look into it more, because I was putting on weight in areas I'd never put on weight before. I wasn't able to lose the weight with ease in a way that I'd had before. It looked like I was pushing the weight really that I was when I was giving birth, and thinking, I'm not doing anything that's different. I kept thinking, is there a correlation? And it was the combination to me of the heat, the sweat, the discomfort and sleep, and the weight gain that made me think, or weight maintenance, I should say, that made me think, I really had to talk to someone and figure out what the plan could really be, because I didn't want to have a situation where I'd heard horror stories of people becoming so neurotic, and I'm already almost crazy. So I didn't want to go all the way. And that's when I wanted to talk to someone.
No, but you know what? That you are sort of a textbook case of sort of menopausal symptoms. There are over 32 symptoms of menopause, and I won't bore you with all of them.
32? Oh my God.
Look, every time I look up, there's another symptom that they attribute to menopause. Then it's one of the newer ones is frozen shoulder, but joint pain. Also very common in perimenopause and menopause.
I was having that too. I'm so glad you've mentioned that. And it's almost like I'm sure people are having little ahas and going, wait a second. Because all of these symptoms to the layman, like myself, they seem so unrelated. And exactly. I can assign blame for each of the things that you're talking about to different things. And I never saw a connective tissue, and almost thought, gosh, everything can't be menopause. Like everything can't be. So what are you doing wrong? And you do feel a little bit of blame for yourself and think, well, I must be doing something wrong here.
Right. This episode of The Second Opinion with Dr. Sharon is brought to you by Alloy Health. As an OBGYN for over 30 years, my entire career has been not just about treating women, but about educating them as well. My goal has always been to give women information so that they can feel empowered enough to advocate for themselves. As the Chief Medical Advisor at Alloy Health, I am continuing this mission. I lead the medical team, guide clinical strategy, and ensure that every treatment plan is rooted in science, not trends or misinformation. At Alloy Health, my job is to make sure that women get access to evidence-based perimenopause and menopause-centered care. Changes in our skin as we age are natural. But did you know that in the first 5 years after menopause, you could lose as much as 30% of your dermal collagen? And that this accelerated skin aging is thought to be due to estrogen loss? Skin is our largest organ, and it is chocked full of estrogen receptors. So that's why we at Alloy Health created M4, our skincare line made with estriol, an effective topical estrogen formulated specifically for skin. These are our 3 prescription-based options: our original M4 face cream, M4 face serum, and M4 eye cream. I personally love the M4 eye cream, which is one of our newest additions. When people tell me my skin looks great, I tell them, hey, it must be the M4. Join the 95% of women who tried Alloy and saw relief in the first 2 weeks. Head to myalloy.com and tell them all about your symptoms, and you'll get a fully customized treatment plan. And you'll get $25 off your first order today when you use code TSO25. Head to myalloy.com and enter code TSO25 to get $25 off your first order. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Rivian and their all-electric, full-size SUVs and trucks made for all of life's adventures. Rivian just announced their all-new Rivian Quad, their fastest, most capable vehicle yet. Powered by 4 motors, 1 for each wheel, it gives you unmatched traction, control, and performance anywhere you are. On winding roads or off-road trails, the Quad is engineered for precision driving and maximum adventure. With a native NACS port, the Quad is compatible with 50,000 DC fast chargers, so getting back on the road is hassle-free. With beautifully designed interiors, tons of storage, and incredible capability inside and out, the Quad is made for everyday comfort and rugged utility. Plus, you'll love the tech. The Rivian experience gets better over time with software updates. The premium audio experience sounds as good as the ride feels. Premium audio is part of the Sound Plus Vision package in quad and tri vehicles and can be a paid upgrade in dual models. And the Rivian Autonomy Platform Plus, a paid subscription product, offers a full suite of advanced safety and driver assistance features. There is adaptive cruise control, active lane keeping, blind spot monitoring, and forward collision warning with automatic emergency braking. Check out the all-new, all-electric quad truck or SUV and the full lineup of vehicles now at Rivian.com. You know, I've been a physician for over 30 years, and something I've seen time and time again is how illness, especially cancer, doesn't just affect your body, it can impact your entire life. So what happens when you get a cancer diagnosis and you're faced with copays, deductibles, and treatment costs? What many don't realize is that even with good health insurance, it wasn't designed to cover everything. There can be a gap. And while the gap is a problem, Aflac can help be a solution. Aflac helps with expenses health insurance doesn't cover. You might know them as the famous duck, but there's so much more than that. Since 1957, Aflac has been a pioneer in cancer insurance. They offer supplemental insurance that pays cash to help with out-of-pocket expenses. Cancer is personal. Every journey is different. Aflac's cancer coverage is designed to help through the full journey, from diagnosis to treatment to recovery and beyond. Managing an illness can be difficult, but your financial security shouldn't have to be. Visit aflac.com/cancer to learn more. As a physician and a mother who treasures time with family and friends, I know how important it is to slow down and make room for the moments that really matter. One of my favorite memories is a trip I took with good girlfriends to connect on where we were in our lives. So instead of booking separate hotel rooms, we found a beautiful Airbnb home where we could stay all under one roof. We cooked together, laughed together, and shared our stories. Maintaining our relationships is how we have kept close and grown our friendship circle over the decades. Those moments of closeness are what makes travel so meaningful. Airbnb makes it possible to choose a place that truly fits the occasion, whether that's a cozy apartment for a quick getaway or a spacious home for family celebrations. And while my family has been guests, we've also experienced the other side of Airbnb as hosts. It's been wonderful to see how opening your home can bring joy to others and help make travel more personal. Hosting is not only a way to share your space, but also a way to discover the value in it. You may be surprised what your home could be worth while you're away. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host. It's not at all uncommon for women to have their symptoms dismissed or ignored, and then you're led astray because you're so young.
Mhm.
It happens. And, one of the things I think that is particularly true when it comes to Black women. I mean, I wish I could say that there was something that this were not true for, but,
Mm.
not being heard, not having your symptoms really addressed, and sort of putting it back to, well, again, that maybe something you're doing that's wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. It's like puberty. Remember, when you go
Mhm.
through puberty, it's not like, oh, I was fine and then I just got my period. No, it's a lot of
I
things
was
are
a
going.
mess. I was a
I
terror. I
know.
was all the things.
I know. Well, the same thing happens to you on the other side. And, I want to get back to how it was affecting not just your symptoms and the things which are enough, but how was that affecting your work life and your family life when you're going through all these things?
You know, it made me in work feel um, anxious because I am in a superficial industry in some respects, right? I mean, the idea of all of a sudden having a hot flash and sweating through and off makeup. I'm not able to do that and and sustain the conversations that I need to have if I'm uncomfortable and trying to mask that in some way. So I had to, in some ways, overcompensate with my focus to make sure that I was drilling down and ignoring what was happening. On the other hand, personally, I was not giving myself any grace because I was so afraid that my moodiness would impact my marital relationship or the one I have with my children, let alone my extended friends and family, because I wanted to maintain a status quo. It was for years between the late nights for television, the early mornings for radio, the inability to sleep through the night. I was going on 3 or 4 hours a night for years. And that took a real toll on the amount of patience that
Yeah.
I had on
Yeah.
things, right? And so suddenly the idea of someone trying to, and he shall not be named, my husband, someone trying to question how I pack the dishwasher
Hmm.
is going to be a different conversation, Dr. Malone, right?
Right.
So
Right.
my kids suddenly wanting to, test the bedtime component is a different conversation. Meanwhile, I'm not feeling like myself, not realizing, really, honestly, until I had a conversation with you about, how long Black women in particular and women
Hmm.
in general endure symptoms that they do not have to. And you and I had a conversation recently, and you were like, so why are you not thinking about either estrogen patches or otherwise? And
Yeah.
I think I had so many answers until your final why, and I had nothing else other than I don't know. And that was one of the biggest epiphanies that I had.
And so that's why I want to have this conversation out there in the open. And weren't you surprised when
Mhm.
we were talking in this past summer, how open women were? The younger
Yes.
women, they're just like, yeah, they
Yeah.
will just tell it all right out there in open
I tell all my
conversation.
business. Yes, I know. I was surprised because it was so affirming and validating. And, when you're there's, and I'm not, as everyone is, they're prideful. I
Mhm.
don't normally associate shame with something associated with my body. I'm not an internal body shamer. I'm not somebody who I've ever experienced low self-esteem the way that I read about clinically, the way that I talk and encourage others not to be. And then realizing that I was hiding something that was happening to me 23 hours a day, right?
Mhm.
And being able to hear and speak and hear even like the affirming yes or me too or oh my God,
Right.
it became something that felt like a bigger community, but it makes me frustrated because um, in a world where everyone is a WebMD, Google expert, armchair expert in every field, suddenly the areas that are most impactful that others could help about, we tend to be like, that's our true silo. Forget politics, everything else. When it comes to women's health, we really are in silos where we think, all right, I'm going to deal with it. It's happening to me. I don't want anyone to start asking questions that, wait, no, maybe I'm not eating as healthy as I should. And yeah, maybe I'm not jogging and I'm not doing, and my Apple Watch has told me to stand up 12 times in the last hour. And I said, take off this watch. These are the moments. And so it felt really affirming. And also to hear from you and the expertise and just thinking about the ages and the list of symptoms and that there wasn't something wrong with you individually. It was something that happens in this gender. And what can we do?
For you, Laura, and I know you have always been an exceptional person, but let me tell you, when it comes to menopause, how exceptional you really are. When I talked about early menopause means having had menopause before age 45, and a premature menopause means having menopause before age 40. And you are in the 1% to 2% of women who will be menopausal before age 40. Now, that's pretty rare company. The symptoms that Black women have are more severe, and those symptoms tend to last longer. So if I tell you that transition, or what we call perimenopause, can last anywhere from 4 to 10 years, for Black women, it's closer to 10 years. Now, I don't know about you, but 10 years is a long time to not feel good that you are in a space. How do you get up and go to work? You've got to be on camera every day, and then like in the middle of a segment, then you break out into a giant hot flash. That's a problem.
I mean, well, first, I feel like you may have read one of my journals, because like you've tapped into all my fears in terms of health. And for me, just having to deal with a lot of different areas and different issues, it becomes so disruptive for me. I mean, you cannot function on so little sleep and navigate the minefields I need to navigate. Also, obviously, I think about, in my morbid side of myself, I think about the fears I had when I gave birth to my first child. And I thought, I'm now living for someone else entirely.
Right.
Not that I forgot myself, or not that I'm not important, not that I'm not important to my husband or my family and friends. But when you become a mom, your focus is that child. And so to think my ignorance, and it was ignorance with respect to hormones and estrogen, could set me back or take years off my life is just horrifying to me. And I'm wondering now, as you're talking, because I've been dealing with this I've recently started taking an estrogen patch. Hats off to you. Thank you so much for the recommendation. It's been life-changing, and I'm sleeping through the night. I'm like a college freshman after the Friday night party in my bed. Like, what time is it? My hair is across my eye. I got like the lashes somehow on my forehead. I got a contact lens in. The other one went someplace else. I mean, I'm in that good sleep now.
Yeah.
In pajamas. Ding, 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 with no fans on. I mean, this is a monumental occasion, but I've had it for 5 years. And so now I'm wondering, God, are some of the things that 5-year window did, are those reversible?
No.
Am I screwed?
No, you're not. Because here's also, for our listeners who may be saying, well, I'm 62. Is it too late? And here's, again, getting back to the recommendations from the Menopause Society. And that is that if you are going to start hormone therapy, the optimal time to take it is either before age 60 or within 10 years of your last period. So no, you are good.
Okay.
You are good. The thing that comes up again and again for women when they're just trying to decide, should I take hormones or not? And we won't go through all of the misconceptions about it, but the biggest one is women are afraid that it's going to give them breast cancer. That is the biggest one.
Yeah. Well, there was that study that came out a few years ago that made us all terrified.
I know. And it wasn't true then, and it isn't true now. Hormone therapy does not cause breast cancer. Another big issue about menopause, and it is now that we're talking about it out here in the open, is menopause in the workplace. And what is the responsibility of employers? What would you need as a person in the workplace to feel supported by your employer? If they realize, if you've got women in your workplace and they're between the ages of 40 and 60, somebody's either going through menopause, is already in menopause. What would you think would be helpful or would have been helpful for you had you known, or had there been resources available? What would be helpful?
Well, if I can get that studio a little bit colder, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much. That's number one. But number two, I remember once saying, I need the lights different. I'm having a hot flash. Give me a second. Can you have makeup come in? I just need some blotting. And I remember a man who was on the panel goes, "Ugh, that's TMI. It's too personal." Really? And I remember thinking, well, I'm sorry your ears are offended, but I am boiling right now. And it's not TMI. I've heard you all talk about your prostates before. I've heard you all talk about any number of issues that I look at you and say, I don't know why I know all your business. This is a medical issue.
Right.
So I think in one way, people have to not be afraid like it's contagious. Right. If it happens. Also, it can't be the butt of a joke where it becomes like, oh, hot flashes. You know what I mean?
Right.
No, maybe I'm just hot in that moment.
Right.
But I think overwhelmingly, I think it's about resources. I think that men and women and employers more broadly need to have support resources available to educate and also show what's available in terms of highlighting what might be covered by your insurance. And we do a great job, I think, of highlighting fertility related issues and what can come from that, or elder care. But we don't always make the connection of what current employers and employees are grappling with on a day-to-day basis. But having the resources prominently identified so that people can come out of essentially the corners and feel like, oh, okay, this is a question I can ask about in terms of as much as surrogacy, as much as fertility, as much as health care plans, I can ask about it too. That would have helped, I think, for me to feel like, okay, I'm not crazy here, and it's never TMI.
One thing that I do like to stress is that menopause is not just something that affects women.
No.
It affects families. It affects
spouses. The entire studio I'm in.
Everybody. So, so I don't want to just educate women. I hope that there are men who are listening, because they need to know, sometimes even if your partner does not know, then maybe you should be the one, whoever the partner is, to say, you know what, honey, you seem a little cross today. Perhaps, without getting your head bitten off as a result of that. But if everybody's on the same page, because I have always felt menopause is the one universal female experience. You may have children, you may not, you may be infertile, you may not. There are a lot of other things that you may or may not have. But God willing, you live long enough, you're going to be menopausal. Hormone therapy is the most effective treatment for the symptoms of menopause. Period. End of sentence. Okay, so if you knew then what you know now, how long ago would you have started your hormone therapy?
The first hot flash. I would have had one bead of sweat. I would have had one blowout ruined, and I'd have been like, give me that little patch. First of all, it's like this big. It's like a little teeny square. It's like a little clear Band-Aid looking thing. You can put it on. It's very discreet. I always put it on my stomach, and you can put it on your back or your butt as well if you want. To me, it's the most nondescript thing. My husband doesn't even notice it, frankly. I don't notice it. It's not coming off on my clothes in some way. I don't feel like, it's in any way intrusive or invasive on my body. I would have done it so long ago.
Well, thank you, Laura. And what I would like for you to do, my charge for you, is that anytime you see someone out there, like if you see something, say something. If you see somebody and they're pulling out a fan and they're looking distressed and their hair's crazy, you just say, girl, you don't have to do that, right?
Do you know how many fans I have? I don't need any more. You're so right. Thank you.
See, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And it is exactly the conversation I thought we would have. It was fun. It was informative. I love you. Like I said,
love you too. Thank you.
And it's time for doctor's orders. And number 1, know the signs of menopause and know your family history. Talk to your mother, your aunties. And if you're under 45 and your periods stop or change dramatically, please don't ignore it. Ask your doctor about early menopause and request an evaluation. Number 2, treatment matters. For women with premature or early menopause, hormone therapy is recommended unless you have very specific contraindications because it protects not only your quality of life, but it protects your bone, your heart, and your brain health. And number 3, advocate for yourself. Too many women are misdiagnosed or dismissed. Keep pressing for answers. Bring your symptoms to your doctor and express them clearly. And ask, point blank, whether or not menopause could be the cause. Thank you, as always, for joining me as we break down medical topics and leave you with expert advice. Have a question you want to ask or a feedback for the show? Submit your thoughts on my website, drsharonmalone.com, and click on the second opinion. Follow the show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, leave us a review.